Hello, and welcome back to LPBW Update, your number one source for the stories happening behind the gates of Roloff Farms. Today, we are diving into a story that is, without a doubt, one of the most shocking and potentially devastating developments in the history of the Roloff family. It's a story of trust, money, and a confrontation so intense that it threatens to shatter the fragile peace that has been built over the last few years. We are talking about a bombshell report that alleges Matt Roloff has issued what sources are calling a final warning to his ex-wife's husband, Chris Marek, over a significant unpaid debt. This isn't just a friendly loan gone sour. What we've uncovered through insider whispers and piecing together clues that have been hiding in plain sight suggests a complex web of financial desperation, a failed high-stakes investment, and a bitter fallout that could redefine every relationship in this family. According to these unconfirmed reports, the situation has escalated far beyond simple discussions. We're talking about a heated, off-camera confrontation that got so volatile, producers of the show allegedly had to step in to separate the two men. This is the story that TLC cameras will likely never show you, but it's the story that explains everything. The tension, the awkward silences, and the uncertain future of the entire Roloff dynasty. We are about to pull back the curtain on this explosive situation. We'll explore the nature of the loan, the catastrophic investment that swallowed the money, and our exclusive theories on what is really going on behind the scenes. This goes deeper than just money. It goes to the very heart of control, power, and loyalty within the Roloff family. This is a story with so many twists and turns, you are not going to want to miss a single second. And because we're going deep into unconfirmed reports and exclusive analysis, we need your support to continue bringing you this kind of in-depth content. If you believe there's more to the story than what we see on TV, if you're ready for the truth, then please take a moment right now to hit that like button. And if you haven't already, subscribe to LPBW Update and ring that notification bell. You are not going to want to miss what comes next. All right, let's start with the core of the story, the spark that lit this fire. A recent tabloid report citing anonymous sources allegedly close to production dropped a bombshell. The headline was simple but brutal. Matt Roloff and Chris Marek are at war over money. But the details are where this story truly becomes terrifying for the future of this family. Let's break down the key claims from this initial report. Claim number one, the loan. The report alleges that sometime within the last 2 years, Matt Roloff loaned Chris Marek a significant amount of money. We're not talking about a few $1,000s to fix a car. Our own follow-up with sources who wish to remain anonymous has led us to believe the amount is somewhere in the six-figure range. One source suggested the initial loan was for $150,000, with a potential second infusion of cash, pushing the total closer to a staggering $250,000. Think about that, $250,000. This wasn't a casual handout. This was a serious financial transaction between a man and his ex-wife's new husband. On the surface, you might think, well, that's nice of Matt, but you have to understand the power dynamic. Matt Roloff, the successful entrepreneur, the patriarch, lending a massive sum to Chris, who, while successful in his own right as a real estate agent, was financially beholden to the man his wife has a notoriously complicated history with. The seeds of conflict were planted from the very beginning. Claim number two, the failed investment. So why did Chris need this money? The report was vague, calling it a failed business investment. This is where our investigation begins. This wasn't a simple stock market loss. Our sources have painted a picture of a high-risk, high-reward venture that Chris was convinced would be his legacy, something to prove himself not just as Amy's husband, but as a major player in his own right. We'll dive deeper into what we believe this investment was later in the video. But for now, understand this. It failed. And it didn't just fail. It failed catastrophically. The entire sum of money, Matt's money, was wiped out. Gone. Claim number 3, the confrontation. This is the most explosive piece of the puzzle. The loan was given with a payback schedule. According to the report, Chris has missed multiple payments. Matt, initially patient, has grown increasingly frustrated. This frustration allegedly boiled over during a recent filming day at the farm. The source claims that Matt pulled Chris aside, away from the main cameras, but still within earshot of several crew members. He wanted to talk about the repayment plan. Chris, likely embarrassed and defensive, tried to downplay the issue. That's when Matt allegedly snapped. The conversation became a full-blown argument. Voices were raised, accusations were thrown. Matt allegedly questioned Chris's financial judgment, his word, and even his honor. Chris reportedly fired back, accusing Matt of holding the loan over his head and trying to control him and Amy. And here's the kicker. The source claims the argument got so heated, so personal, that a field producer and a sound guy physically stepped between them. Not because they thought a punch was going to be thrown, but because the verbal vitriol was so intense, it was making the entire crew uncomfortable and threatening to derail the entire day of shooting. The producer had to call for a cool-down period, sending Matt to one side of the farm and Chris to the other. This is the moment the final warning was allegedly issued. As they were being separated, Matt reportedly looked Chris dead in the eye and said something to the effect of, "This is it. You have until the end of the year to make this right, or we're doing this a different way. This is your final warning." What does a different way mean? Lawyers, public humiliation, using it as a storyline on the show to paint Chris in a negative light. The ambiguity is what makes it so chilling. To understand how we got here, we have to look back at the public relationship between Matt and Chris. For years, fans have been pleasantly surprised by their dynamic. On screen, they were the model of a blended family. Matt seemed to respect Chris. Chris seemed to be the easygoing guy who could navigate the treacherous waters of the Roloff family drama. He was the peacemaker, the guy who could hang out with Matt and Caryn without making Amy feel betrayed. They bonded over projects, over beers, over a shared reality of being with a Roloff. But was it all just for the cameras? Was this friendship ever truly genuine, or was it a performance of convenience? Our theory is that the friendship was real, but it was also transactional. For Matt, being friendly with Chris was a way to keep things smooth, to ensure access to his grandkids, and to maintain a semblance of family unity for the sake of the show. For Chris, being friendly with Matt was simply a requirement of being with Amy. It was the price of admission. Think about the power imbalance that has always existed. Matt is the lord of the manor, the owner of the farm that is the center of their universe. Chris, in that context, is a guest, an outsider. Even when Amy owned part of the farm, it was always Matt's farm in the public imagination, and arguably in Matt's own mind. This underlying power dynamic is crucial. It means that when Chris accepted that loan, he wasn't just accepting money from a friend. He was accepting it from the man who holds immense psychological and financial power over his entire family. He stepped into a trap, whether he knew it or not. And now that trap has sprung. The tabloid report was vague about the failed investment, but through our channels, we've been able to piece together a compelling theory about what this venture actually was. This isn't confirmed, but based on whispers from multiple sources, this is the most plausible scenario. And it's a disaster. The investment, we believe, was a luxury glamping project. Think about it. It combines Chris's expertise in real estate with the Roloff brand's connection to agritourism. The plan, allegedly, was for Chris to find and purchase a scenic piece of land not too far from Roloff Farms and develop it into a high-end, exclusive glamping destination. We're talking safari-style tents with king-size beds, private bathrooms, wood-fired hot tubs, and gourmet campfire meals delivered to your tent. The idea was to market it to the massive LPBW fan base as a way to experience the Roloff lifestyle. It was brilliant, in theory. Chris saw it as his chance to build an empire of his own, synergistic with but separate from the farm. And he sold Matt on this vision. Matt, the eternal entrepreneur, likely saw the potential, but he also saw the risk. He's been burned before. So he gave the loan, but with strings attached, a strict repayment schedule, and we suspect a stake in the future profits. So what went wrong? In a word, everything. The failure cascade, the land deal. Our sources allege that the first chunk of money went to securing a piece of land. But Chris, perhaps overeager, ran into zoning issues and permit nightmares. The perfect piece of land was a bureaucratic quagmire. The legal fees and consultant costs started piling up, eating into the initial capital before a single shovel hit the ground. The contractor from hell. To save money after the land deal delays, Chris allegedly hired a contractor who offered a suspiciously low bid to start developing the site. This contractor, as the story often goes, was a disaster. They did shoddy work, missed deadlines, and eventually, according to one whisper, walked off the job, taking a significant portion of the materials budget with them. The market shift. While Chris was bogged down in these problems, the economic climate shifted. Interest rates rose, discretionary spending tightened, and the market for luxury travel became more competitive. The window of opportunity was closing. The project was bleeding money. Chris, in a panic, went back to Matt. He needed another infusion of cash to fix the contractor's mess and get the project back on track. This, we believe, is when the second loan, pushing the total to that $250,000 mark, was given. Matt gave it reluctantly, essentially doubling down on a bad bet to try and save his initial investment. But it was too late. The project collapsed under the weight of its own debt and mismanagement. The land had liens against it, the partial construction was worthless, and the entire investment was gone. Chris was left with nothing but a mountain of debt owed to his wife's ex-husband, and Matt Roloff was left feeling like he'd been played for a fool. A secret this big doesn't exist in a vacuum. The fallout from this financial catastrophe is sending shockwaves through the entire Roloff family. Every key player is affected, and their reactions are creating new fractures and deepening old wounds. Put yourself in Amy's shoes. This is her worst nightmare realized. For years, she fought to extricate herself financially and emotionally from Matt. Her marriage to Chris was supposed to be her fresh start, a life free from Matt's control and influence. And now her new husband is financially indebted to her ex-husband in a massive way. Our sources say Amy is beyond stressed. She is caught in an impossible position. Loyalty to Chris. She loves her husband. She wants to defend him. She sees his humiliation and his desperation. Part of her is furious with Matt for putting this pressure on him. She feels Matt is using this debt as a weapon, a way to reassert his dominance and prove that she can't be happy or successful without him in the picture somehow. Disappointment in Chris. At the same time, she has to be deeply disappointed in Chris's judgment. Why did he go to Matt? Why did he risk so much on a speculative venture? Why didn't he come to her first? There's a sense of betrayal there too. He went behind her back to her ex-husband and created a situation that puts her right back into Matt's orbit. The result? We're hearing that Amy and Chris's marriage is under a strain it has never experienced before. The arguments aren't just about the money, they're about trust, judgment, and the shadow of Matt Roloff that continues to loom over their lives. Will she have to use her own money, the money she got from selling her part of the farm, to Matt to bail Chris out? That would be the ultimate bitter irony. Caryn's calculation. Now, let's talk about the other woman in this equation, Caryn Chandler. Don't think for a second that she is a passive observer in this drama. Our sources paint Caryn as Matt's enforcer. She's pragmatic, business-minded, and fiercely protective of Matt's, and by extension, her financial future. From Caryn's perspective, this isn't a family issue, it's a business deal gone bad. Chris made a promise and he broke it. The money he lost wasn't just play money. It was money that could have gone towards the new dream house, towards their retirement, towards her security. We believe Caryn is the one in Matt's ear, telling him not to let this go. She's the one reminding him that friendship is friendship, but business is business. She likely views Chris's failure as a sign of his naivete and doesn't want Matt to be the one left holding the bag. This creates a clear battle line. It's Matt and Caryn on one side, and Amy and Chris on the other. Caryn's involvement turns this from a dispute between two men into a full-blown power struggle between the two couples. She sees this as a threat to the life she's built with Matt, and she will not let it slide. The kids' perspective, here we go again. And what about the kids? Zach, Jeremy, Molly, and Jacob. For them, this situation is likely a painful case of deja vu. They have all, in their own ways, had financial and business disputes with their patriarch. The most public, of course, was the failed negotiation for the farm with Zach and Jeremy. Both sons felt that their father put business and profit above family legacy. They walked away feeling dejected in that their dad didn't deal with them fairly. Now, they see him in a financial dispute with Chris. What do you think they're thinking? They're likely seeing a pattern of behavior, a pattern of Matt using his financial power to control the people around him. They might even be secretly or not so secretly on Chris's side. This could validate all of their past grievances. They can now say, see, it wasn't just us. This is who he is. He uses money to create loyalty and debt to create control. This conflict between Matt and Chris doesn't just affect the present. It reframes the past. It could be the final nail in the coffin for any hope of reconciliation between Matt and his sons over the farm deal. They see their father repeating the same behavior, just with a new target. Now we're going to enter the conspiracy room. We've laid out the facts as reported by insiders, but the why is always more interesting. We've developed 3 exclusive theories that might explain the deeper game being played here. Theory number 1, the it's all for the show theory. This is the theory that many cynical viewers will jump to immediately. Is this entire drama manufactured? Is it a fake storyline cooked up by Matt and the producers to create compelling television for a new season? The argument for this is strong. The show's ratings have relied on family conflict for years. The farm sale drama is getting old. They need a new, high-stakes narrative. A bitter feud between Matt and Chris, with Amy caught in the middle, is ratings gold. In this scenario, the loan might be real, but the conflict is being intentionally exaggerated for the cameras. The off-camera fight might have been staged for the crew to overhear. Matt's final warning is just a cliffhanger for the season finale. However, our sources are adamant that this is not the case. They claim the raw emotion and genuine animosity during the confrontation were 100% real. The producers were allegedly trying to de-escalate the situation, not encourage it. They are now scrambling to figure out how or if they can even incorporate this into the show without facing legal repercussions or having the family refuse to film together. So, while we can't dismiss this theory entirely, we believe the truth is far more personal and damaging. Theory number 2, the ultimate power play, the farm leverage theory. This theory is, in our opinion, the most likely and the most chilling. This isn't about $250,000. Matt Roloff is a multimillionaire. The money is significant, but it's not going to make or break him. So what if the debt isn't the issue? What if the debt is the leverage? Leverage for what? The one thing Matt still wants, full and total control of the entire farm property, free and clear of any lingering attachments to Amy. Remember, even after the buyout, Amy still has a presence and a history there. There are complicated easements and access rights. There is the emotional attachment. What if Matt's endgame is to get Amy to sign away any and all remaining claims, to sell her new property and move further away, to essentially erase her footprint from his land for good? He can't pressure Amy directly, but he can pressure Chris. Imagine the conversations happening in Amy and Chris's house. Chris is crushed by this debt. He feels like a failure. The stress is destroying their peace. Matt knows this, so he applies the pressure, he demands payment, he issues warnings, he makes their life a living hell. Then, at the right moment, he makes an offer. Not to Chris, but to Amy, through Chris. You know, he might say to Chris, I could make this whole debt problem disappear. All Amy has to do is cooperate on a few things. Sell me that small parcel by the road. Sign off on this new zoning application. Agree to stop having her charity events on the property. In this scenario, Matt isn't a debt collector. He's a strategic mastermind. He's using Chris's financial failure as a chess piece to finally win the long war over Roloff Farms. He's forcing Amy to choose her husband's financial freedom or her last remaining ties to her legacy. It is a brutal, manipulative, and brilliant move, if true. Theory number 3, the unraveling, the Matt's own financial pressure theory. This is our dark horse theory, but it's one that's gaining traction. What if Matt's aggression isn't about power or control, but about his own financial desperation? We all see Matt Roloff as the wealthy, successful farm owner. But what if that's a carefully constructed image? Consider his expenses. The dream house, that massive new home he's building for him and Caryn, is not cheap. Construction costs have skyrocketed. That project is likely costing millions, far more than originally budgeted. The farm's decline. Pumpkin season is a big moneymaker, but it's only one part of the year. The farm itself is an expensive operation to maintain. And with the family fractured, the farm has lost some of its wholesome family appeal, which could affect the brand. Failed ventures. Matt has had his own failed ventures we may not even know about. The short-term rental plan for Amy's old house has been a slow and complicated process. And what if Matt is more financially stretched than anyone realizes? What if he's house poor with all his capital tied up in a construction project that's over budget? In this context, $250,000 isn't just a number, it's liquid cash that he desperately needs. He might have given the loan to Chris when his own financial situation was better, but now, with his own pressures mounting, he needs that money back. Now, his anger at Chris isn't just about the principle, it's about the practical reality that Chris's failure is directly impacting Matt's own financial stability and his ability to complete his dream home for Caryn. This would explain his lack of patience and the intensity of his final warning. It's not the move of a chess master, it's the panicked reaction of a man who feels his own empire beginning to tremble. Now, you might be thinking, this is all just wild speculation, but there are clues, breadcrumbs, that have been left on social media and in recent episodes that support these theories. Amy's vague posts. Look at Amy's Instagram over the past few months. She's posted several photos with captions talking about facing challenges, learning to trust, and navigating difficult times. At the time, we all assumed she was talking about generic life lessons, but viewed through the lens of this debt crisis, they take on a whole new meaning. Is she subconsciously venting about the stress Chris's debt has caused? Caryn's boss babe energy. Caryn's social media has been full of posts about hard work, making smart decisions, and building a future. She recently posted a quote that said something like, "You can't build a strong future on weak promises." Was that a subtweet aimed directly at Chris Marek? It's a striking coincidence, to say the least. The awkward on-screen moments. Go back and rewatch the last season. Pay close attention to scenes with Matt and Chris. There is an underlying tension that wasn't there before. A dinner scene in one of the later episodes was particularly telling. Matt makes an offhand comment about people who can't manage their money, and the camera cuts to Chris, who just stares at his plate. It lasts for only a second, but it's there. At the time, it seemed random. Now, it seems like a deliberate passive-aggressive jab. These aren't smoking guns, but they are puzzle pieces. And when you put them all together, they form a picture of a family in a silent crisis, a crisis that is just now beginning to erupt into public view. Conclusion: the brink of war. So where does this leave the Roloff family? They are on the brink of an all-out war. Matt's final warning has started a clock ticking. Chris Marek is backed into a corner, facing financial ruin and the potential humiliation of being exposed on a national television show. Amy is caught between the two most important men in her life, her past and her present, forced to navigate an impossible emotional and financial minefield. And Caryn and the Roloff children are watching from the sidelines, their own relationships and futures hanging in the balance. What does a different way mean? We believe Matt has 3 potential moves, 3 nuclear options. Legal action. He could hire a lawyer and sue Chris for the full amount. This would be messy, public, and would absolutely destroy any chance of a civil family relationship ever again. Public shaming. He could use the show and his massive social media platform to tell his side of the story. He could frame himself as the victim, the generous friend who was betrayed, and paint Chris as incompetent and untrustworthy. This would ruin Chris's reputation. The farm leverage play. As we discussed in our theory, he could use the debt to force Amy's hand, achieving his final victory in the long battle for Roloff Farms. Whichever path he chooses, the consequences will be catastrophic. The fragile peace the Roloffs have managed to maintain is about to be shattered. This isn't just another storyline. This is a crisis that could lead to the definitive end of the Roloff family as we know it. The trust is broken, the battle lines are drawn, and we will be here to track every single development as this story unfolds. What do you think is really going on? Is Matt justified in his anger, or is he a manipulative patriarch using money as a weapon? Is Chris a victim of bad luck, or did his pride lead to this disaster? And what should Amy do? Let us know your explosive theories in the comments section below. This is a conversation that needs to happen. Thank you for joining us here at LPBW Update. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that bell because you do not want to miss our next update on this developing story. Until next time.